All right, so on today's podcast, we're going to discuss Carnivore. Is it too good to be true?
Fiction, fact, is this just a myth? What is really going on with this thing?
All right, so let's get into it then. How is it even good? All right, let's kind of begin with this. What do I mean by saying, is it too good to be true? What are the good results? Weight loss, fat loss specifically, right? We're not losing muscles, we're losing fat. Inflammation, like all of it is gone. That includes whatever inflammation's caused, like joint pain, and everything that goes with it. All of our little aches and pains kind of gone. Then anxiety, brain or fog clarity. I don't know if is there another way to put it.
Just overall mental health, mental sharpness.
Yeah, so that's good. Kind of like that's a little brief, tiny overview of our experience. I mean, what else are we experiencing that's good?
Stabilized energy, increased sex drive, better memory retention, better sleep.
Dude, again, we're just scratching the surface here, right? That's the good. So, is Carnivore too good to be true for those things? Is that not true, or I don't know?
I feel like I don't think it's, well, I mean, it's true.
It's working, right? I don't know. It's good.
But I don't know if it's just too good to be true. It's like, well, how come we talked about this. When did all of a sudden feeling like normal turn into like superpowers? We're not like never going to age. We're not going to never die. When I think of like it's too good to be true, it would be like, I don't suddenly have the powers of invisibility or something like that. I feel like we're just returning to
Normal?
Yeah.
Healthy?
And I think the question in my mind is the answer really this simple? It's like, can it really just be?
Well, I guess that's the good then. Simplicity, maybe. Because when I say too good to be true, because it's so simple and it works so well compared to so many other things. And I always think about like studies. Where when you ever watch a vegan debate, whoever, or try to discredit or say something against the carnivore diet, specifically vegans, or somebody that's promoting a vegan type diet, they are always pulling out research papers, and majority of the research says, I don't know. Well, okay, it talks negatively against eating meat in general and positively against eating or for eating vegetables. So now we go back to the too good to be true. If if those research papers were all accurate, then what we're doing would be too good to be true. But in our experience, it's not. It's true. Right. Our results are undeniably true.
Right.
Unless it's a placebo effect, but that's a different podcast.
Yeah, we'll cover that one.
Yeah.
No, I think the hurdle that most people have is, and I don't know how to address it, because even between our experiences, you realize that we have differences in experiences. Even though that we're both experiencing really good success, it's not the exact same success. We have similarities, but we have differences.
Like when you're talking about you and I.
Right, just between you and
because
I.
Both of us are, doing it about the same time. We're about, just past 60 days now.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, we have both of us have great results, and your results are a little bit different areas than mine. I mean, there's the majority result; they're very similar.
Yeah.
Like in energy, like stability, like brain fog,
Right.
sleep, like pretty much all the things we mentioned. Weight loss or fat loss specifically.
But the other thing too, and what I'm leading into is, we also didn't come into this with an exact same like repertoire of problems. Our problems that we were trying to fix
Very
were,
true.
were a little different too. And I think what we have as humans, and there is truth to this, there isn't like a one size fits all for everybody anything.
Well, again, yes, because our bodies are different, like a fingerprint.
Right.
Very unique.
And I think when people look at what's going on with us, hear success stories on YouTube like us, there's like this idea in their head that, but it either wouldn't work for me or I couldn't do it even if it worked.
Speaking of success stories, because I hear that all the time. Well, I've been watching a lot is the No Carb Life.
Okay. Yeah.
The gentleman interviewing people, and I love hearing those interviews because they're like the best success stories you hear of Carnivore. I mean, there's a few others out there, but I've been listening to him a lot, or his interviews a lot. And those are the people that are like committed and they tried it and it worked for them. They continued. It's like a lifestyle now. So for them, it's definitely not too good to be true. It's true, right? And I think our success stories are very similar. So like when I'm listening to them, I like relate a lot to them.
Right.
And then when I've never really found a vegan YouTube channel that has all these success stories of health, of the turnarounds that people have been having, and they've been on it. Not just I've been a vegan a month now, and look at all the success stories. I'm talking about years, 6 months at the minimum, a year, 2 years, and so that's why I'm kind of going back to this too good to be true, and I don't think it is.
No, it's definitely not. And I think there are a lot of people out there who could really benefit from, at least a way more animal based diet. Because I keep asking myself too, it's like when you cut everything out and you see all these improvements, it's like there's a part of me that is like, so which one of those things was the culprit or combination of things?
Okay, so on that, there's this. So the carnivore diet is specifically a two-part or two huge sections of this diet. One is zero carbs. Other one is the nutrition that we're eating.
Right.
So when you start introducing other foods, you eliminate one of those or both of those.
Right.
I think you need those two factors, the nutrition that we get from beef, butter, and eggs, and the no carbs.
Well, and I think when it comes to the nutrition, I think I just kind of turned a blind eye for years to the availability of it. I've always been told, you want to cook your carrots a little bit because it makes, even though it degrades some of the vitamins that are in there, just the process of cooking, once you break the cells apart through the heat process, it becomes a lot more available. And, I've just never put it all together where the nutrition in animal meats and, eggs, things like that, they're kind of already available.
And it's all there. That's the thing. Like you were telling me about carrots. So that carrot, it's very limited on what it has, what kind of nutrition it has.
Right.
Not only that, like, so you let's say you would do some sort of vegetable diet. You would have to have a variety just to get all the nutrition that's available in meat. So that's one thing. You're killing one thing like that. You don't have the nutrition eating carrots, for example. And then is just sugar. So you're killing the other thing because I think the no carbs. I don't know if the no carbs is even bigger deal than the meat. Let's say as an experiment, you would eat what we're eating now: beef, butter, eggs, and salt. But you would take a spoonful of sugar, so it's just pure sugar.
Right.
So the no carb thing goes away. Will it have a similar effect versus, let's say, zero carbs, but you're eating what can you eat when it's zero carbs? Do you know understand
Well,
what I'm saying?
I mean, the things that are left on zero carb lifestyle that aren't animal based are all oils. They're all fats, and you could chug olive
Yeah,
oil.
that's the thing, but I don't think we're meant to eat seeds.
I think there's a limited range of what and again, I think this is where a lot of people, when they see things like us and other people like this, and then they look at, studies, blue zones, Mediterranean people, they've always eaten a plethora of foods. And,
Okay, but I have something to add to the blue zones. Keep going, and I'll add to it.
well, just that as more and more of these researchers come out with these data, the things that they're uncovering, though, there's always like some kind of untold truth hidden underneath everything. So, you take like Italians or whoever in the Mediterranean is in a blue zone, and you look at their food list and you say, oh, great, tomatoes, pasta, pork, whatever they fish, and they say, so just eat those things. But there's a problem, and what they don't tell you are things like, for generations, those people, when they ate tomatoes, they would really get ripe on the vine, not even like cut with the vine. Okay,
I see where you're going.
and I remember this from growing up when they would make the sauce and the things from the tomatoes, they would, they grow varieties specifically to have as little pulp inside as possible. They remove the pulp and then they blanch it and throw the skin away. And then, I'm always thought, oh, the skin's where all the nutrition is.
I know. How did we get brainwashed to think that when it has the most pesticide, not like the sprayed pesticide, but the natural occurring
Right.
pesticides in the skin?
So all of these things, that's why I said, there's always these untold truths, because if you look at it on a whole, a person likely living in one of these blue zones, this isn't a whole other podcast, but I'll touch on it. One, they're generally not subject to clocks. Their version of time, even though they operate on a day-to-day basis like we do, there was a whole thing I read about this a long time ago where when I say I'm coming over to eat with you, it just means that. Like, I'm not going to be there at 6 o'clock for supper. We're going to eat from 6:30 to 7, and then I'm going to go home at 7:45. When their lifestyle is
You're
like,
talking about more a relaxed lifestyle, though.
well, but I'm just saying, like, on a whole. And then the people, when they have these tomatoes that are vine ripened and all this, they're outside, active, tilling the dirt. Maybe they're grounding, by coming in contact with the soil. They're out in the sun, And so when you just say, oh, look at what the people in the blue zones are eating: tomatoes, pasta, olive oil,
okay.
red wine, just eat that. It's so hard to just make this claim that that's now what's good for you. I mean, the Mediterranean diet is another synonym for healthy eating.
Yeah, okay, but then here's the thing. The way they just made that tomato, the way they wait till it's ripe. Here, I go to the supermarket. That tomato was probably off the vine, off the vine, green.
Definitely off the line.
Yeah, off the vine, off the vine. It was green,
Right.
and it was sprayed with some sort of chemical to make it ripe. I literally have tomatoes in my fridge for months that look okay.
Right. Well, you're never supposed to put tomatoes in the fridge.
No.
Kills the flavor.
Okay. Anyways, that's another story.
No, but I agree because there's tons of food like potatoes is a big one. They spray
Absolutely. Yeah.
with inhibitors that keep them from sprouting. No, you know, there's just a much broader picture to all these things, and then when you when you get somewhere like the United States, and we talked about this on one of our last videos, and it's like people that eat the same things over there come over here and they gain like 20-30 pounds. And why? And my guess is that that whole picture is getting blurred. It's like, well, I'm still eating spaghetti. It's like, yeah, but did your grandmother grow those tomatoes, and did your grandmother roll out the pasta?
Okay, but I would add more to the blue zone, the whole blue zone idea.
Right.
There is another thought to that where the blue zone is filled with minerals. So the blue zones are located where you have the natural occurring flows of water that come down to whatever land, and it's like they drink this water, they bathe in this water, they grow their vegetables, the animals grow in this water, they drink this water, and the water that is mineral rich. I would say if you're gonna go and look at the blue zone, it's looking at the minerals that are deficient here versus the minerals that are in the blue zone. So that could be another variable.
No, and I think when you sort of wrangle all these things in together, no one piece is the whole picture. The reason that people thrive in certain areas isn't just because they eat a lot of fish.
Sure.
Right.
There's more to it.
And this is where I get very frustrated with Western culture, is they are always working on isolation. They always want to, so if we're going to grow a plant and we don't change any other factors, but we just drive it a whole bunch of extra nitrogen and we get a whole bunch of extra growth. Right.
We found the solution.
Right. And it doesn't take
A plant that's dead of minerals.
right, which can probably grow and get big and produce, but the thing that it produces is going to be lacking, and you won't even be able to really see it.
I mean, who knows what that does to our actual bodies? Imagine you're just eating those vegetables, whatever, like those big tomatoes that are growing.
Right.
They're lacking nutrition, like minerals, not nutrition, but mineral. I don't know what nutrition, but it would be some minerals they're lacking, or a lot of minerals, because that dirt that's been grown for over 100 years, that's just been tilled, and they put more the fertilizer in there, and then they spray them with the what was it called to make them grow?
Oh, fertilizer to make them grow.
No, nitrogen.
Oh yeah, where they feed
Specifically
it.
they specifically feed nitrogen because they get bigger. Is that like almost just does that tomato just look like a tomato now, and it's like structured like a tomato, but it has no nutrition whatsoever?
I think it is a tomato, and it has value, right? It has calories. It has lycopene if it turns red.
Right.
Okay. But maybe it just doesn't have the complete profile. So it's just, it's still good in its own right, but it's just lacking. It's not optimal.
So then we go back to carnivore.
Right.
We're eating beef. We're eating butter and eggs and salt. Then we could kind of determine that maybe some of that stuff is lacking too.
I have thought a lot about that. Chicken as an example. It's actually really been heavy on my mind the past few days because I remember when you came by the office the other day and I was really, really allergy blasted. Remember, was it Monday?
Yeah, that was unusual
Tuesday.
for you. Yeah.
Right. And I was racking my brain, and the night, I don't know if this is the actual cause of it, but literally the night before I had 2 chicken thighs. I haven't eaten chicken, especially not like, I mean, the thighs weren't huge. And it was, Rosie's organic chicken. It wasn't like I was eating, excuse me, like some
Fried
super,
chicken,
yeah,
right? You're not went to KFC, got some fried chicken.
no, or some like, third party hormone chicken. I've always thought of Rosie's as a pretty good product. And literally the next day though, I was like, oh my God, what is going on?
Fascinating.
And I keep thinking about what chickens eat. And they eat corn and they eat soy and they eat,
You mean what they're fed, not what they're supposed to eat.
with these, well, what I meant specifically was what these chickens were probably eating before I ate
Gotcha.
them.
Scare the lights.
Yeah, we needed to be a little brighter.
There you go.
But no, and then I was just terrible the next day. And it's really got me wondering, not just about what an animal is fed, but how an animal breaks its food down. And
I think that's a big one. That's
Yeah.
why meat from animals that have stomachs like a cow, like a sheep,
yep.
are the meat you want to eat.
Right. And even if it's wild, you could still eat elk, deer, and all these. There's a,
Yeah, they're all grass-eating animals that the grass ferments in their stomach, and that's how they get nutrition. Versus, like a pig stomach or a chicken stomach, which I think are pretty similar
to us.
to us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a straight line.
yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's definitely benefits to eating higher quality. And what I mean by the quality, we're talking about, the feed, the treatment of the animal, the raising of it, the environment.
Sure, but ultimately, nobody has really done a study. There's one study that I know, it's been done like in the 40s or something, and it was 2 male subjects. One had to drop out for whatever reason, I forget, and one went through a year. And for some reason, this was, I don't know, I think I told you about this study. And he went through a year just eating beef and salt or something, and he was fine, just came out fine, no problem with it. In good shape, had proper muscle and all that, and proper tone. And that's like the only study that's ever been done on a, let's say, strict carnivore diet. And again, he came out okay, but there's no studies done. Why? Is there like a conspiracy now? Are we talking conspiracy theories? Or is it because the smart nutrition doctors or whoever don't think it's even a viable idea to do something like this because it's just a bunch of nonsense?
Well, I think, if we want to play into some conspiracy theories, I think, there's some capitalism behind this because it's very convenient that you can plant something, grow it, and then sell it. It's like a perfect product. It just kind of springs up out of nowhere. You don't have to, like if you talk about like a house, right? You got to take this material and turn it into this material, and then you have to put all that material together. And that's
Sure.
a lot of labor, where plants are very convenient in the fact that, you just throw a seed in the ground, treat it properly, but the work to produce the fruit just kind of happens on its own. And there's really not a lot involved. And, like a tractor or a plow, just makes one person's efforts extrapolate tremendously. And so I think there's some capitalism behind it. And then I definitely have to wonder if the people in the know, because you look back, people knew things. If you even read the Bible, whether you subscribe to kosher law or whatever, they knew stuff. They put it in a book. They wrote the book, thousands of years ago. And science comes out, modern science comes
Just
out.
to confirm it.
Right, and confirms, it's probably a good idea that you do this or that. So I think what we get to is, in the conspiracy thing, I think one, there's some capitalism, and two, I think people who are satiated on a high carbohydrate diet, I think they're easier to control.
So basically, there's no incentive to do a carnivore study because it's going to come out and say, hey, this actually heals you pretty much from any like your everyday disease that people live with every day with their chronic pains and their misery and their headaches and whatever else they're having, their anxiety attacks all the time.
Right.
And then, I mean, I guess, yeah, there's that whole capital. Like, just think of the pharmaceutical industry. That wouldn't exist
Right.
if there was no money in it.
Well,
It's like they
and
almost create stuff out of thin air just to
I
make
mean,
some pill.
I do kind of wonder what would happen if, like, you just take somebody like the United States, right? What if we all just ate meat?
We need a lot more cows.
We would need a lot of meat, right? And there would be a lot of people that, the Salinas Valley, the salad bowl.
So should we not spread the word about carnivore then? Because that way we have more meat to ourselves.
I've thought about it a little bit like that. Like if I'm looking in the future and I'm thinking to myself, encourage this, and then have to compete with all these people for the resource that I'm after, or
Is this the money tree we don't want to tell anybody about?
no, it's not the money tree.
Not the, but that's a kind of analogy.
It's closer to
or the health tree.
the fountain of youth.
The
That's
fountain.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. The fountain of youth.
Is this the secret place that?
And are we telling everybody, hey, it's in the corner of here and here?
No, and I really thought about that, and also, you've experienced the same thing. We talk about that video with the silver bars and the candy bars, and he walks around.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I don't think, even if we,
It's a silver bar. Take it. No,
No,
it
it's
works for you, but it won't work for me.
right, it couldn't be real, or
Yeah.
or a multitude of other excuses.
Well, that's why we ask: is it too good to be true?
And I think for me, the answer is no. It's not too good to be true. I think the real question is, are you open-minded enough to listen?
Right. Well, I would say the majority that you tell people about this, they say it's not for me. I can't do it. It might work for you, but not for me. They're thinking it's too good to be true.
Or, well, you're probably right. Because what I was thinking was, there is a certain, this other part of it where, we all know that if we go to the gym and work out, we'll get stronger and feel better.
Sure.
Okay. But there is also these limits. Like, some people will never be NFL athletes.
Yeah.
Genetically speaking, they're too small, or they're whatever. And so I think a lot of people look at things too, and they say in their mind, it's not necessarily that it's too good to be true or that it wouldn't work. It's just that, even if I applied myself to it and did it my very best, I'm still never going to get, superstar status. So why bother?
Why bother? Basically, I mean, I know that's kind of a very defeatist attitude. I've had that many times thinking about certain things. Like, I can't perfect this, like a perfectionist attitude. I can't perfect this certain thing. So why bother? It'll never be perfect. So why bother? My room will never be clean. So why bother even cleaning it? Or it'll
Right.
never be as clean as I wanted because I have this chip on my wall. So why bother cleaning the room? For example. No, that's a very good point. So, and I mean, yeah, there's that other view of it versus too good to be true. It's because I can never be this perfect body. This won't help me. So why bother?
Well, and from a someone, personal to me, has mentioned that, like, they've done something similar, right? Not the same, but very similar.
What Atkins? I mean, Atkins was a huge thing.
Sure, right. And they experienced problems. And honestly, a lot of the stories, I don't know what got me over the hump because going into this, I was really worried about some stuff. And one of them was constipation.
Sure, sure.
And the person I'm talking about, their concern with this, it's just like, I would never go.
Yeah, you won't know until you try it, really.
Right.
Especially
And
with something like that, because I hear stories all over the place. Some people have constipation, some don't.
some people have the opposite of
Yeah,
constipation.
exactly. Yeah, that happens a lot too.
Right.
Your stomach needs to get used to it, so that's fine. But it's how can I say it? The constipation, I think, is almost a myth because you're not eating fiber. Fiber is the what constipates you. It's because it ties together. You like dehydrate this fiber, and it's just a big plug of wood that's in your stomach, colon, wherever it's at. Not stomach, obviously, but
Yeah. The intestine.
yeah, intestines, and but meat's just gonna rot. What happens with rotting meat? It just becomes jelly almost, right?
Right.
It just disintegrates. So yeah, I mean, anyways, that's kind of
Yeah.
to each his own. Kind of how it's gonna take you a little bit to get used to this. Yeah, sure, there's a hurdle. That's definitely not too good to be true. That's real. It happens.
But I think too that, something always tends to happen. But I think that a lot of people are used to being moved by the outside force instead of moving on stuff themselves. Meaning, like, people won't just actively go get another job or try a new career path, right? A lot of times before somebody will do that, they have to get fired, right? The outside, what I'm saying, like the outside works on them versus,
It's an outside influence versus you. Basically, like most people always do better after they get fired because that's something that's kicking their butt. They have no choice. Versus, let's say, somebody in a position, they're like, okay, I've been here 2 years. I have a lot of skills. I'm gonna ask for a raise. If not, I'm gonna look for another job. And boom, that's kind of elevate themselves financially and skill wise, work wise, whatever. Versus somebody that's gets fired because say the company gets sold and they get let go, or for whatever other reason. So that's internal versus
external.
external.
So I don't know what got me to move. I really don't. The only thing I can tell you from,
I would say it was more internal. Like it was your choice.
well, but it was a strange internal choice because, like I said, as we were just
Contemplating, talking about it.
something in my gut, like that intuition, was like, yes.
Was a guess.
Yeah, no, it was yes. Anyways. I don't think it's too good to be true. I think it's just people are afraid.
Yeah, no, I think people are afraid until like something really gets them, but at some point it might just be too late. Like once you do enough damage to your body, no, I mean I don't know. This works so good.
It works really good.
Yeah,
but,
it does.
I mean, there is such a thing as dead.
Yeah, there's dead.
you
Yeah.
know,
Especially the more I learn about cholesterol and what happens with the arteries and how this. Let's see, cholesterol again. Your artery starts cracking in a high carb diet. And the cholesterol is there to repair. But there's so much of it, and there's the other cholesterol is not there. There's the LDL, HDL. One repairs, one kind of removes, clears it out, and it just starts packing on. And then, like, oh, it's cholesterol. Look, we found the evidence.
yeah.
It must be from the meat you eat.
I do like that analogy. It's like everywhere there's fires, we find firefighters.
Yeah, exactly. The firefighters are starting. That's like what I was trying to remember that analogy.
yeah.
That's exactly what it is. There's a fire. There's firemen. Firemen are starting the.
Or maybe they're not starting it, but it's definitely part of the problem. We
They're lighting it. Yeah,
We need to get rid of the firemen, and we won't have any more problems with fires.
That's the modern medicine right now.
And I think this is the problem with the isolation method. This is the exact example of looking at one thing way too specifically. And I kind of blame Henry Ford a little bit. Let me explain.
You mean versus like other variables, like you're stuck on looking this one specific like cholesterol.
Right. And it's not even about looking at all the variables. It's about understanding a system on whole, which is very hard to do. I granted that, and I'm not saying that isolation doesn't have value, right? Because if you have a normal, healthy person and you can isolate down to one thing that maybe they have a deficiency in, then you might be able to help them come back to, say, like normal health by introducing that thing that they've been lacking.
Sure.
But the problem is we tend to take a system that works and then we want to understand it. And so we break it all apart.
Which nothing wrong. That's kind of how you learn something, right?
Right. But, you
kind of forget this piece moves this piece.
Right.
And you're focusing. You're like, why is this piece moving, right? And you're like, because this piece moving. But you're not seeing the whole picture. You're just so focused on this piece.
Exactly.
Yeah. What were you saying about Ford?
Oh, well, Ford was very, good as a businessman, and he basically pioneered the assembly line. And the assembly line takes every job and turns it into like a one task thing.
Sure.
So, it's like this
Stamp.
guy.
Stamp.
Right.
Stamp.
And that's all you do. And you can get extremely proficient at it, but you have no concept of
why you're stamping this in this certain position.
Right. And, I know from both types of manufacturing that I did, which was, woodworking and metalworking, that even though it is good and it's important to be very good at each part of the thing that you do, every time I had a broader vision of what I was doing, I got better at each one of the little tasks in between because I understood how it fit together.
I love that because that's kind of it almost made you a better assembly line worker because you understood the whole picture.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Exactly. So, but here's the flaw with Ford's issue, like, because the Japanese had to come in and teach the assembly line. I think it was either Ford or Chevy. I think it was Ford. I don't remember exactly because they basically hired Japanese car manufacturer people. I don't know who exactly. There's a story behind it. I'm going to give you a really rough draft. And they basically taught the American assembly lines that they have to have a stop button because some things won't fit or didn't work, and they would just mark it to do it when the car was done. They would something would fall in or a light wouldn't go on, and they would just finish the car like that, and it would be marked, and somebody would have to come in and finish it, or they would sell it like that. The Japanese introduced the stop button to the assembly line so they could stop it and they could, make whatever works.
They specifically have one philosophy that I absolutely love.
Japanese?
Sure. It's Kaizen. And Kaizen is, I'm sure it's absolutely butchered in America. But roughly what it means is continuous improvements. And the example is, so say you have an assembly line.
Sure.
It's like you're like the last step, you're boxing it up, you're putting tape on it. And you have this funny little thing with like a crappy little tape dispenser, and the rolls of tape keep falling down. So if you have a little problem like that tape dispenser, then you fix it and you make a really good tape dispenser, and then you put like big rolls of tape, of really high quality tape in it, and it permanently improves that one little thing. And they're constantly going through the whole process.
Bit by bit.
And just like, can we make it a little better? It's like, well, what if we put a sharper blade on the tape dispenser? Or what if we part a little bit duller blade, so nobody gets cut, but it still breaks the tape easily. And they just continue, it's kind of like the Nexus. It's like they got the assembly line and they're like, awesome, now let me show you how to perfect it.
Right.
So
anyways, yeah, with that, I mean, to me personally, I don't think it's too good to be true. It just is what it is. It's not. I wouldn't say it's the easiest thing. It's not an external force for me. It's an internal. I choose to do this,
Yep.
and it's not hard. At some point, you get to it's like it's you forget how good you feel, like, or how bad you felt, and like the cravings. The cravings, I think, is the biggest thing for me. How they went away, and I'm not just like, even though I have excess fat on my body, I'm not ravaging, starving to get some sort of carb into my
Yeah.
mouth
Or anything.
to satisfy
Just
that anything.
Yeah.
So I would say for me, yeah, it's definitely not too good to be true. What about for you?
Definitely not. How about this? I'm grateful it is true.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, no, yeah, with that, let's thank our audience.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
watching this. Appreciate it. Don't forget to like, subscribe,
Awesome.
and
We'll see you next time.
yeah.